right, this is the 416 podcast. This is the interview series, and I'm excited today to sit down with Cliff Sabroe and to talk about the work here in West Visalia, California. And Cliff, thank you for sitting down. I know that Wednesdays are busy days, obviously, but I appreciate you sitting down with us and the opportunity to get to know you and have our viewers and listeners to get to know you as well.
So. Well, I appreciate the heads up and that this was going to be a video interview so I could plan on wearing a bright yellow t-shirt
Absolutely,
and not look like a real preacher. So
it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
We're keeping it real out here in California.
Yeah, no doubt. And I appreciate that too. So introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about your family and kind of where we are, in relation to the church here in the area. So.
Okay. Well, my name is Cliff Sabroe. I'm married to the amazing Cindy Rodgers. I have 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls. Me and my wife met at Yosemite Bible Camp back in high school, and I planned on there that was the girl I was going to marry. She didn't have that plan just yet, but I convinced her of it, and we've been happily married since 2002. I'm working with the church in Visalia, California. We're located pretty much geographically and smack dab in the center of the state. We're halfway between Fresno and Bakersfield. If you want to go out beyond that, we're halfway between Los Angeles and Sacramento. For California standards, we're a small town. We're 120,000 people. Yeah. That might seem giant in other places, but that's a small town for California. We're located in primarily an agricultural region. Most of the jobs are related to ag, whether it be citrus crops or cattle or cotton or anything like that. So that's where most of the business is from. But of course, other companies make their home here as well. The church is the West Visalia Church of Christ. The Church of Christ in Visalia has been in existence since before 1900. In various forms, and this is kind of where we're at now with the work here.
Well, and we got to visit Sunday morning, and grateful and very friendly folks, very welcoming, and enjoyed class and worship period and everything, and to get to meet the elders as well. When I think about families working with congregations, you've got a large family. So, and you've been here, you said 20 years.
It'll be 20 years in July is when I started. I started here as an associate minister. Was that for 2 years? I was working with Brother Sean Hockdorf at the time, and he ended up going to mission work in Tanzania. And I thought I would actually stay on as the associate, and they'd bring in a new pulpit guy, and I decided that I'd throw my name in the mix after a little while, and the elder said, "We've been waiting for you to do that." And I was a young guy, maybe 26 at the time, and I've been the pulpit minister ever since, and that was 2008.
Yeah, well, that's how I knew anything about West Visalia was through Sean.
Yeah.
The lectureship was going back then.
We had a pretty big lectureship and a book. That was quite the undertaking back then.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And I love those. I still have those books and great studies. So let's transition. Let's talk about the work here, and I'll give you opportunity to highlight some of the things that you guys are doing and the focus and the area that you're working. But I know that you also do some extracurricular work or secular work as well too. That I think helps in this outreach. So kind of speak to that a little bit.
Well, for a long time, 17, 18 years, I've been involved in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community. Training, competing myself when I was younger, and running a kids program. From that, pretty much every day of the week besides Sunday, I'm in the gym there helping train people, work with kids, work with adults, and teach them that art, going to tournaments and coaching alongside and all that. But that has proven to be a huge opportunity for evangelism. And what I found with that is, since I'm seeing the same people day after day, I'm getting to know their families. They trust me to teach their kids. We're engaging in a sport that involves a lot of trust. I'm like, hey, all right, I want you to practice taking me down and putting me in a chokehold, and I'm going to respect that and tap out and trust that you're going to let it go. Yeah. You develop some pretty close friendships pretty quick like that, and that has definitely proven to be a huge opportunity to teach people about Jesus. We do a small group gathering at our house on Sunday nights, and we could have 35 people in our house, which is kind of crazy. We already got that many kids in the house, and everybody else brings their kids too. But I could say that if we had 35 people in the house, 25 of them are from the gym. That's coming cool. In to engage in singing worship songs together, discuss the sermon that morning, ask questions, hang out for a couple hours talking about what they're going through, and become that sounding board where they can ask their Bible questions, where they can talk about their problems in their life. I mean, even just this last week, I was training in a morning class. After class, someone said, hey, can I talk to you for a little bit? We sat on the mat in our sweaty uniforms right there for 30 minutes, talking about real life stuff that he's going through, and and trying to offer him guidance from Scripture. And that was an opportunity I didn't even seek out. It just, I mean, I tell people evangelism, when you're out there in the community just getting to know people, it actually just happens very organically, very naturally. I don't have a canned method that I use. I don't have a script that I follow. I just put my family out there and we talk to people. We try to represent Jesus well, develop relationships with people. And man, the opportunities just fall in your lap like crazy.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that you talk about organic, opportunities like that. I think that's usually where, you're just, people always talk about, well, I missed an opportunity. Well, we're not usually looking for opportunities. That's the problem, and so you start thinking about being proactive wherever we are, because we're living faithfully, we're doing those things, we're letting our light shine, and those bring about opportunities, and so we just need to be ready.
For sure, absolutely. And people know I'm the preacher. I mean, of course, and all that. And it's brought up in conversation. If someone drops a cuss word over, like, oh, I shouldn't talk that way around you. And I'm like, hey, don't worry about me. It's God you got to worry about, And that starts a conversation. Or someone watched some crazy show on History Channel. They go, hey, Cliff, they said the Bible says this. Is that true? And those conversations happen. People see my posts on social media. Wow, I'm just sharing this tournament footage we went to, but they're also seeing I posted a sermon clip, So real quickly, people know I want to become the go-to spiritual religious guy in the group. And that happens very naturally when you just put your faith out there and it kind of falls in your lap.
Yeah, I think that's great. Let's talk about the work here. I know that there's a new part that's going on too. And so talk about how that came about.
Yeah, so truthfully, how it came about is we're in a bad situation financially at the church here. We were a much larger congregation at one time. Financially, our contribution, looking at the records, has not increased in the last 20 years. And that sounds scary when you think about how much cost of things have increased. In California, truthfully, a lot of the more conservative folk, your Christian folk and all of that, are leaving California in droves. So our congregation has had a huge number of people over the years move, to Tennessee for a lot. And so if you're listening to it, people that moved to Tennessee, I'm still mad at you. Texas, Idaho, out of California. Our congregation has brought in a lot of new people. We have people being converted, people coming to Jesus and all that, but new converts, people from a working class blue collar background versus people that have been raised in the church all their life and are used to giving and things like that, that definitely affects contribution. We're in a facility that's way too big for our congregation, that is massively expensive to maintain. I've been preaching to sell the building for the last 20 years and I finally got my way a little bit, but it costs a lot to maintain. Our budget, we're talking about a third of our budget goes to building related things. And that's not a payment, it's a paid for property. So that became, after looking at our books and looking at the situation and looking at what we're spending, it became very clear that we cannot continue to spend like we're spending and maintain much more than, I think our math was like 8 years. Of course, God can do amazing things. People can give more. We're not going to count that out. But being good stewards of our finances, we said, hey, we need to start thinking, what are we going to do financially? So we're brainstorming and working through, and the thought, of course, ever selling a church building, it invokes panic in people's mind. People don't want to do that, This is where we go.
Shutting down.
Yeah, my kids are like, well, that's where we've always gone, but the church is dying. No, guys, the church is not the building. We say that all the time, but people don't actually believe that. But anyway, when all this is going on, we got hit up by somebody who was interested in possibly using part of our building for a daycare preschool situation, maybe leasing it out, renting it. And in the process of talking about all of that in our board meetings, we talked about, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if we sold the building, but were tenants in that own building, maybe rent-free if we make a good deal or something like that. So not to get into all the weeds of all that, basically the deal we've kind of are in the process of working right now is selling our property to a preschool that allow us to be in half of it as a church for a very long time. And it'll provide a lot more financial stability there and alleviate us with putting so much funds into sprinklers and AC units and repaving parking lots, and that we can support good mission works more, things we're excited about, send kids to Bible camp. Because if you've ever been part of a smaller congregation, what usually happens is you cut the mission work, you cut the kids, you cut this, and you exist to keep the building open. And we did not. Based on the building. And the elders here they said, we will not exist like that. where we're only existing to have a building. We want to exist to bring Jesus to the community, and maybe there's a way that we can do that. So that's what we're working through right now. It's a huge process, partnering with a preschool and trying to, the legal side of things and title companies and all that. There's that, but I'm excited about the opportunity. It's scary. It's different. There is sadness in some of our members because they're losing, you feel like you're losing your home a little bit. Like, well, this is our building, that kind of thing. Or we can't use this room at this time of day now. I can't just wander through the building whenever I want because, you're not life scanned to be around children or something like that for a preschool. But overall, I think it's going to be a good opportunity. I really think that this idea of thinking outside the box for us started a lot during COVID with having to shut down and things like that and having to do things differently. It's been an opportunity then to say, hey, what can we do that's best for teaching people about Jesus, serving our community? And we learned that it doesn't have to be a building-centric model. We exploded with evangelistic growth when we were shut down because we were meeting in homes. We started doing small group Bible studies. We started doing more online presence. And we had a lot more people come to learn about Jesus with that. And maybe getting us outside of the building more, not being able to use it all the time, is going to result in that as well. So I'm kind of excited about it. I'm nervous, but I'm excited as well at the opportunity.
That sounds amazing. And I know it's got to be kind of nerve-wracking a little bit just to think, okay, well, how is that going to look, 5 years from now? Just kind of look ahead, because that's how we focus. It's not just right here, but where's this leading us, and things like that. But I like the idea, and I think that COVID did, done several of these interviews with brethren who have been in difficult areas too, who were hit hard by COVID. And I know the West Coast and the Northeast, especially more so than Tennessee and the South in that sense. But I know that those congregations have had to kind of figure out some things, not just how to deal with COVID and all of that, but it made them open their mind a little bit to opportunities, like you say, outside the building, thinking outside the box. And I think that has helped some congregations in some ways, and maybe that's the case here too, helped some congregations in some ways to think about how are we, we've always done evangelism a certain way. We've always done, a gospel meeting, a campaign, we've, certain things. And this kind of makes it real life. Let's get out of the building. Let's do some things and focus. And I think every congregation kind of has to figure out where they are in the community.
For sure.
Congregation been in existence longer than 100 years. Also has had to make some changes through that time period, through those decades, to get to a point, even where you are now. But to think about, okay, well, in 20 years, the work may look completely different as well. And if congregations don't adjust and adapt to those things, they die.
Well, and what I saw, a huge growth in our eldership during that time, because, not to rehash all COVID stuff, no one knew what we're supposed to do. There was no right or wrong answer on a lot of things. When you open up, do you require masks? Do you do this? Do you do all those kind of things? Yeah. There was a lot of gray area, and our leadership of the congregation had to make decisions, defend the decisions, but also admit we don't know if this is the right decision. Yeah. And I think that the humility involved with that made us all grow spiritually, because we had to tell the church, we don't know exactly what we're supposed to do right now, and that's going to be okay. Yeah. And I think that mindset, because none of us know exactly what we're supposed to do in ministry or running a church or even what I'm supposed to teach every Sunday, but I don't always know. We don't always have a great plan, and I think having that opportunity to have a gray area and make a decision and have to admit that we don't know exactly what we're doing was a huge growth opportunity for us, spiritually speaking.
And even for the members to
absolutely.
To have some trust in the eldership to lead and to make adjustments if they needed to. And
I think that's how we've been able to navigate the financial stuff here too, because we already got a pattern of, hey, we're all human trying to figure this out. You know what I mean? Right. And then again, in California, you don't have the privilege, or maybe, I don't know if it's a curse even too, where there's another church on the street you can go to. I mean, there's not a lot of Churches of Christ in Central California, especially ones with an eldership and ones that are not existing maybe with 20 people or less. Right. I mean, so you kind of got to make it work a little bit and work through your issues, and that's what we're doing. That's
great. And we've kind of obviously touched on some struggles for the church here in the area, but what I want to know is about maybe the evangelism part. Now, I know that you're doing work obviously
Yeah.
through training and through the gym and things like that. Those opportunities are good. As far as the area, as far as evangelism goes, how receptive, I guess, is the area to the church? Maybe is that a struggle that I think that's probably a struggle in a lot of places.
It's a struggle
obviously.
everywhere in trying to create what is your identity you're putting out there in the community, what are you known for? And sadly, most churches are known for where their building's located and the color of their sign on the street or something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If they know that.
Yeah, that. I think I've seen a big transition now as being a congregation that where the members, especially the newer converts, are inviting. And I've tried to create, and I sound arrogant, I haven't tried to create, I think God wants us to be people that are bringing, multiplying, exponentially. And what I've seen is if you can bring in a new family, a new couple, a new individual, and get them connected into a sense of community where they're learning and they're growing, they naturally are going to bring their friends into it. Say, hey, come on this. My friend is going through this. What should I do? Tell them to come to a small group on Sunday night. Tell them to come to Tuesday night Bible study. You know what I mean? And bringing your friends that way. And I've seen huge where it's not weird or uncomfortable to invite your friends to a church gathering, a Bible study. I find that more so with my long-term members making that awkward versus a new convert. A new convert's like, hey, I found this thing that's exciting, let's come. I mean, you find let's say you join a new gym, you're like, wow, they got this great personal trainer. You need to come to this class. It's not weird to bring that up, you know?
Right.
And so find the people that are excited about their faith and get them to recruit. So one, I've tried to, and the elders have, and our new members and our congregation here together, I think are working really hard to create a sense of community and closeness where you can go through difficult times in life together, where we're going to pray with you, we're going to help you, we're going to help you be accountable, we're going to call you out when you're doing something wrong, but we're going to encourage you when you're doing something right. As for community-wide, you and I were talking already beforehand about we do have a Spanish work here. We've had this for a few years. It kind of fell into our laps and a great opportunity. A brother that we trust that we had worked with before, him and his father were involved in a Spanish work in one community, which sadly in that situation there, like many churches in Central California, they couldn't maintain their facility anymore and they sold it and they quote unquote closed up shop. We absorbed that Spanish work from that, but it's also grown where our particular Spanish work, and they meet at 8 o'clock on Sunday. So 8 to 9 is Spanish. We have a half-hour break, then 9:30 a.m. is our Sunday school. That group has done a really good job in the evangelism in the Spanish congregation, a little bit different than the English one. They like the door knocking, whereas you try to get English speakers to do door knocking, that doesn't happen. But they're all about that. They're putting flyers on cars at Walmart and stopping people in the parking lot. I can't get any of my English speaking brethren to do that, but they do that and they bring in people that way. But our Spanish work has become a sending work too, in the sense that they're putting on events and organizing things. So that's one way we're in the community. We do a good job, I think, with youth. We host a youth camp at Yosemite Bible Camp that through the contacts at the gym and kids in their schools, they're inviting their friends. So they're inviting people that come from different church backgrounds or not church backgrounds to come and learn about Jesus. And then after camp is over, they're telling mom and dad, we need to go to church over there because I know those people.
Right.
And I think that's where we're making our biggest inroads.
And especially when your kids are excited about something.
Oh, yeah.
And
I got 6 kids, so it's easy to recruit more kids that way.
Yeah, there you go.
There's always 55 children at my house, hanging out playing or something. Everybody's got a friend over. So, but that if more of our members can do things like that, that's great opportunities for evangelism.
Yeah.
We had a Tuesday night Bible study at our house a couple weeks ago, and everybody that was there was about a 20-year-old young man. And all it was my son invited his friends and they invited their friends and they all sat down and they all wanted to talk about Bible before they went out skateboarding afterwards. It's like most guys would be like, that's crazy. You got young men in a Bible study. They're all asking questions. It's great. And so
that's cool.
I think if you're just, making relationships with people in the community, getting to know people, getting outside of your bubble, and you live Jesus in your life, the evangelism opportunities will happen.
Makes a huge difference, and I appreciate that too. One thing that obviously with 416 Ministries that we're trying to do is encourage preachers. We want to keep preachers preaching. We want to encourage congregations and those relationships within congregations that help build up, help to edify. And I know that from the lesson, and you're talking about, being blessed, Ephesians 1:3. That's
I'm just glad you're paying attention.
Absolutely. I just wanted you to know that I was listening.
Good. I was looking. I was making sure you're taking notes.
And so, the idea of being blessed, that we are blessed, and that's the congregation's theme this year, I think, has been the case. I know that as preachers, and you've been here for 20 years, I know that there are times that the work can be discouraging. Maybe the work is going great, but something else is going on. We get discouraged. Just things happen.
I'll admit it. I quit once a week.
Yes.
Okay.
Monday mornings.
Yeah. No, sometimes it's Sunday right before I get up to preach. I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore. So
it's true.
It is. Anybody's lying and they tell you, oh, it's all great, man. And I've been blessed to be in the same place for a long time. And I've been here long enough that I have learned a few things, and I've made enough mistakes that maybe I can save people from some of them. How to get over those? I'm already leading on the question. I'm assuming you're going to ask me, how do you get through those hard times?
How do you keep going? Yeah.
Try to be in a place as long as you possibly can. Yeah. First and foremost, my work has changed so much because of how long I've been here. I've been here longer than a lot of the members now. I've done the funerals for the grandparents and did the weddings for their kids. And for many people, I'm now like the only preacher they've ever been around because of that kind of situation too. But try to be in a work as long as you possibly can, and it takes time to work through. Everybody comes out of school, starts a new work, guns a-blazing. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then in 2 years they quit, and you ask them why, they say no one wanted to work. Yeah. And I'll give you a reality check. No one wants to work anywhere. That's why we're here, is to try to help people work, okay? And I mean that nicely, but you got to get over the fact that there's going to be times you're going to put on an event and only you and your family show up. Yeah. There's going to be a time that you're going to do this and someone complains about it. Someone doesn't like your sermon. I'm not saying you have to be thick-skinned, because I'm not. I take every complaint to heart, and it bothers me, and I think about it and I dwell on it. So if any preachers listening to this, you're not alone, because I think we all do that. Yeah. But if you can stay in a place for a long time, learn to get over the fact that it's going to take very long time to get people involved. You'll have longevity. I think you've got to learn to pick your battles too. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you've got to learn what battles to fight, and some battles take a very, very, very long time. Yeah. I've seen now the growth of a seed that maybe was planted in a sermon series 15 years ago. Now someone will raise their hand and make a comment from the audience, and they'll say something. I'm thinking, I taught you that. Yeah. You believe that because I finally convinced you that you're wrong about that. But now you're saying you believe that. And it takes time. It takes, and I think so often we think things are going to change quickly. Mm-hmm. One sermon, I still believe in the back of my mind that one sermon is going to change the world. It never happens yet. But in my mind, at one sermon, everybody's going to go, hurrah, let's go save the world. They all storm out the back doors. It hasn't happened yet. Believe that you're going to change the world with one sermon, but also live in reality enough to know that it might take 1,000 to get through to that one person to make this one change. But don't quit when things get rough. Having a family behind you and leaning upon your spouse, if you have one, of course, that's so important. I would say getting out there in the community in some way and having a support group of people and friends that aren't just your coworkers in ministry is also helpful, because it keeps you humble and it keeps you out of the bubble a little bit, because sometimes we get in our own echo chambers where we hear the same thing over and over. I'm part of a group that meets quarterly of different people from various religious groups that come together and talk about a heated religious topic. The last one I was a part of, the topic was, how do we reconcile the passages that seem to promote genocide in the Old Testament, or God and destruction of the Canaanites? Man, that's a huge topic, right? Sure, yeah. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, I'm sitting around a table with people from all different religious backgrounds, in Christendom, but yet we come at this a whole bunch of different ways, and I'm being pushed to think outside the box, and I'm making a new contact, and now we have conversation, and having that mental stimulation and having some people in my life that I can argue with and discuss and debate deep religious stuff, because a lot of times in the church we're dealing with petty stuff. We're dealing with stuff that, and maybe it's not petty even, but everybody's real life baggage, and sometimes we don't get a chance to be strengthened ourselves. Yeah. I'm dealing with this person here whose marriage is falling apart. This person here's kids on drugs. This person over here who's struggling with pornography. And and what are we doing to grow as preachers? Find some way to grow. Find somebody to challenge you, to ask you, what book are you reading this week? To ask you, what are you studying right now? What podcasts are you listening to? Yeah. Find something to push you mentally like that too. And I think that'll keep you in ministry. But try to be in as long as you can. Don't quit when things get hard. Have a good family around you. Have people around you that can challenge you, even if they're outside of your belief system, because it's good to be challenged because it makes you question what you believe. Yeah. And pick your battles. Maybe it's not time to fight that battle. We were joking about dress in service. About, do you wear a tie? Do you not? Do you wear a banana yellow shirt for a podcast interview? Maybe it's, I've had so many preachers go, I really want them to let me wear jeans on Sunday. I said, why even? It'll come. You slowly slip in it. So I did it. It took me 15 years. Now I don't wear a tie anymore. You know what I mean? But it took on this Sunday I wore a tie, but I wore a coat, or no tie, but I wore a coat. So it balances it out. You know what I mean? You gotta pick your battles a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's a silly one. Dress code and all that's silly. Yeah. But pick your battles. It takes time. It takes time to get a program started. It gets time to get people on board. But when you do see people growing, find those moments and get encouraged by them.
Yeah, and I think that 2 Timothy 4 gives the very picture of that, with long suffering and doctrine. You're going to preach. Yeah. You're going to do it with long suffering and doctrine. So there's a patient teaching, in other words, that has to take place. And
real quick, you bring up 2 Timothy 4. In my mind, someone asked me, when do you plan on leaving the West Visalia Church of Christ? And now this might sound idealistic because I might get angry one day and just quit. But I always told myself, when Paul told Timothy to fulfill his ministry, when I felt like I have fulfilled my ministry, then I'll move on to something else. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the way we got to look at it.
I think that's great, and it's the thing that we always try to instill and to talk about with congregations, so that they understand too what preachers are going through, and so I get to come in because they can't fire me, can't run me off, or they can run me out of the parking
after you've been preaching someplace for 20 years, they ain't gonna fire you anyway.
That's true. That's great.
I mean, I got two. They all love my family. I'm related to half the congregation now. I mean, you're stuck. I'm not going anywhere.
That's very cool. I think Cindy's got a question too.
Yeah.
So you were talking about
I'm getting all sweaty in here, getting me all nervous, man.
How you stay encouraged and I love all of those points. How do you keep your family, your children, and your wife encouraged? Or how does the congregation here work with y'all that keeps her? Because I know as a preacher's wife, it's hard sometimes. And you do go through things that you have to keep quiet about, or, it's just a different life. Yeah. No matter how you slice it, you're just a regular Christian, but you're the preacher's wife. So how do you keep them encouraged to keep working and to stay somewhere 20 years?
I think and I can't speak obviously for preachers' wives. I have an amazing wife who does a lot of work in the congregation, but I've even seen her role evolve and change over the years. Where when we first came in, it was, you brought on your wife. It's expected for the preacher's wife to be a certain way and to do these certain programs. The longer you stay in a place, you can create the standard of what to expect. Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe the preacher's wife doesn't have to be in charge of ladies' Bible class. You know what I mean? And you can delegate that, and you can say no. And I think finding the longer you can be in a place, the easier it is to say no to certain things. I think bouncing off of your spouse, there's times when I say I'm going to quit, my wife tells me to suck it up and quit being a baby, and I will never tell her to suck it up and quit being a baby, but I might hug her and say, there, it'll be okay. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Finding encouragement from my family. Don't be negative about the church work to your especially children. I mean, me and my wife, we'll talk about stuff when we're upset and discouraged and things, but I never want to make my kids think that the church is bad or that Dad's stressed out because Christians are mean to him. Serving Jesus is the number one goal of our family. And right now, they do sense, we're going through changes. Like I said, maybe not being able to use the fellowship hall. That's huge, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, that kind of thing. Telling them, hey, it's still okay. We're still a church. We're going to still teach Jesus. We're going to do this and keep that at the forefront. So don't be overly critical of leadership in the congregation, of the membership, of preaching. Make your kids see that you think it's the greatest thing in the world, getting to be a part of it. Yeah, it's stressful, but it's worth it. I think that's so important. And churches need to not put weird demands on preachers' families too. Yes. Preachers' families have their own issues, and they have their own ups and downs and struggles, and not every preacher's wife wants to be the ladies' day speaker. Not every preacher's son wants to be the song leader. That might not be their thing. Of course, we all want everybody to be faithful, but don't expect a certain cookie cutter mold. And I think we're a little bit easier out here in California. We don't have to play the politics game where you have to impress different churches in different places, but it is there, and I think you just kind of got to say, I'm not going to fall into that mold.
Right. I love that. I love that. Also, follow up, another question, totally not a follow up, but so when people are in the area coming through California, coming to church here, worship, what are some things, because we've found lots of things to do this week, what are some things that you would recommend somebody just don't miss this if you're in this area?
Okay, well, if you're right here in Visalia, we have a beautiful downtown. It's been maintained for a long time, and it's vibrant and nice. Outside of our area, within 45 minutes, is Sequoia National Park and Kings Canyon National Park. If you've never seen the sequoias, you need to see them. It is so amazing to think God made this, and it is a faith builder to do that. It was right when we first shut down, quote unquote, because of COVID. Me and my family went up to Sequoias, and we went there right before they closed the park. So we got in, they closed them that day, so we had it to ourselves. So Sequoia National Park was like our playground that day. And we went to a river, we drove up into the snow, because there's still snow up there, saw the sequoias, and we still look at those pictures with fondness because, wow, look at what God has made, So you got to do that. The Central Coast of California is also awesome. I'm not a big fish person, but everybody says got to go get fish and chips in Morro Bay or something like that. That's 2.5 hours from here. If you like agricultural stuff, during the springtime, all these citrus trees have amazing blossoms that, they're right at the end of the street down here. People take their senior photos because of I don't know what, maybe it's an almond orchard. I've lived here my entire life and I don't know what blossom is which, but the white ones that are really pretty, they're down here, and that's always amazing to see. And there's great people. If you like training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we got one of the best competition teams in the world at Elite Team Visalia. I'll hit that up too, so come on in and I'll teach you an armbar or something. But yeah, those are the big ones. And we're not too far from Yosemite as well. That's a little bit farther. We have beautiful mountains around here. And if you like farms, you want to see, you want to go anywhere from a slaughterhouse to a feedlot to a orange orchard. We got a bunch of that too. Lots of sights and smells as you drive through Central California.
Definitely. Yeah. When we went to Kings Canyon yesterday, that was the case because it took us through all the orchards and then through dairy fields, and stuff like that. So it was changing just constantly, so we saw it all, and then of course then you
smelled it all too.
Smelled it all too, yeah.
But when the citrus stuff is out, that smells wonderful, and you also got the cows too. Did you go all the way back to the back of Kings Canyon?
We cut off on what was the road? We dropped down to the lake.
Okay.
Hume Lake.
Okay, Hume Lake, yeah.
Yeah, so instead of going all the way to the end of that and coming back, we were running out of time, so we dropped into Hume Lake and drove through there, which was just gorgeous.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And then came
I
back
want that
through
Christian camp because there's a camp right there.
I saw that.
I know. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to check that out and see what that
Yosemite
is.
Bible Camp, if you're looking to send your kids somewhere, is only $160, whereas Hume Lake is like $600. So just wanted to let you know.
It's impressive out there,
It
but
is.
I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, well, certainly appreciate you sitting down with us, taking your time today to do that, and I love the congregation and what's going on here. And just hope that we can, continue to, converse about it. And if there's something we can do, we want to help and help in the area.
And I definitely want people to know, sometimes we get forgotten out here in California, but there's a lot of amazing Christians out here.
That's what
and there's
I'm finding.
People out here that are dedicated to teaching people the gospel. They're outside of the circle of maybe churches that you are part of. We don't have congregations on every corner. We don't have a lot of big events that a lot of people go to, things like that. But the people that are here are used to having to work through difficult stuff. Yeah. They're dedicated. They give of their time. They give of their money. They open up their homes, and they want to learn God's word. And there's a lot of really good, solid Christians out here in California. I know they don't get a lot of attention, but they're doing some amazing things.
Well, when people hear California from anywhere else, it's like, oh, everybody's running out of California anyway. So we do that. Our gas is expensive here and things like that. It is. And diesel's even more.
Yeah, and we do have Southern California, which has some amazing stuff, and the Bay Area has some amazing stuff, and also has a lot of weird stuff too. That's anywhere. Come on.
That's life. That's life. So, but anyway, appreciate you sitting down with us, and we'll have all the links for West Visalia, and we'll put those in the bottom in the show notes as well. Thank you for tuning in with us. We'll see you further down the road.
Thank you.